Let's start first, of course, with Gamecocks football. We have to start there. South Carolina falling 48-3 over the weekend at Williams-Brice at Texas A&M, and I see you shaking your head, Alex. I know we talked about you didn't get to watch a ton of the game. You were out of town, and obviously you did not miss anything, but we were obviously both really skeptical, right, going in this game. I mean, Texas A&M, a top 10 team. You've never beaten them. But I don't think either one of us could have imagined what happened at Williams-Brice Saturday. I mean, I've told people this since that game. There are a few times in sport, especially in college football, where you're going to see such a thorough ass whipping. There's no other way to put it. Just a thorough beating in all phases of the game. When you saw that score, and I'm sure you scrolled through like the stats and stuff, I mean, where did your mind go? Could you even believe what you were looking at?
Yes and no.
Okay, better question. Could you believe that we kicked a field goal down 41-0? I know the answer to that is yes.
It was at that point I was watching it on my phone. I was a little golf trip with a bunch of my buddies, and a lot of them are big Clemson guys, so they were all watching the Notre Dame game. So clearly I lost control of that TV. So I was just watching it on my phone, and when we lined up to kick the field goal, I just turned it off. I was like, what are we doing here?
Did you hear the explanation from Muschamp of why they kicked it?
No, I didn't look at anything.
This is golden then, because we're going to get your live reaction. In the post game, Muschamp said the reason they kicked the field goal is because Parker had missed a few the last couple of weeks, and he wanted to get him some confidence and get him a field goal make. Let him attempt the field goal and make it to build confidence.
He said that out loud to somebody?
Yes, in the presser, yes. Yes, he needed to get his fifth-year senior kicker some confidence going into a big matchup against Ole Miss.
Gotta get some reps for the kick.
For the fifth-year senior kicker. Again, the jokes just write themselves with Will Muschamp. You can't make this stuff up. And again, that's where it all falls. I will actually say, let's stay on the field first, because we're going to get into Muschamp. But we all know what needs to happen, okay? We all understand the change that needs to happen, whether or not that will. Buyout be damned, I think it should. But again, that's the change that has to happen. I think at this point it's evident, it's clear. We're going to get in that in just a second. But I do want to talk about, because we've been very adamant. I've been very adamant as far as, quote unquote, defending Colin Hill. And I made this point, and I'll tell you, Alex, that the big thing with me is with Colin Hill, I wasn't more so defending him and saying, like, you know, he's this elite player and he's the end-all, be-all. You know, he's the only guy that should touch the field for South Carolina. But I wanted people after LSU, at least, to realize he's not the number one problem. He's not the only problem, we should say. And you watch that game on Saturday night, and I think that's very evident and clear. I mean, guys dropping balls left and right, couldn't get anything going in the run game. Obviously, Colin played terrible. I think he went like 8 for 22, threw 2 picks. Was a horrid game for him. I'm not defending that. And so now coming in this Ole Miss game, you know, fair or not fair, because, again, I still think there's all types of – I mean, this entire team has questions on it at this point, but there's question marks all around the offense still. You still don't have anybody not named Shi Smith that can make a play on the outside. And if you can't get Kevin Harris going, what we saw on Saturday night is going to be the result. But I would argue to you, Alex, I think almost at this point, I hate to say for the sake of changing things just to change them, I feel like at this point, your hand is forced. You have to make a change at quarterback because, I mean, you've basically already lost the fan base if you're Will Muschamp. And it's seeming like, you know, we're talking here late on a Monday, and it's seeming like, unfortunately, the move is probably not going to be made at least until maybe next week if they lose to Ole Miss or end of season. So I think to, in any way, save some type of face, I think you've got to make the move now. And change your quarterback. Like I said, if nothing else, get Ryan Helinski out there, get Luke Doty. I don't give a damn which one it is, but I just don't feel like you can trot Colin Hill back out there again in good conscience.
I mean, probably. I mean, you shouldn't, because at the end of the day, what are you playing for here?
Right.
And if you're talking about getting reps for your fifth-year kicker down
41-0,
7 touchdowns,
right,
in the fourth quarter, like, there's no reason not to like let your other quarterbacks take reps. And you know, at this point in the season, you might as well start throwing them out there and see what you got, because even if Colin is the more polished player, knows the system better, something's not working. And you're right. He is not the focal point of why we have struggled this year. Like, he played really, really well really up until LSU, or well enough for us to win,
right?
Up until LSU, and then that's just gone completely sideways since then.
Alex,
So,
I almost think at this point you have to give people a reason to even want to watch. I mean, as bad as things have gotten. You know what I mean? Like, I think you almost have to give the common fan like a reason to tune in on. I mean, and granted, I mean, listen, again, I'm not questioning Carolina fans' loyalty. They'll tune in. They showed up every game for an 0-11 season. They'll tune, but just in the sense of like hope. I mean, again, you basically completely lost the fan base. So you got to change something. And again, I hate to say for the sake of just changing things, but you've kind of seen the Colin Hill thing out too. He is who he is. You don't know what Ryan Hilinski's going to really do for you if you start him, or you really don't know what Luke Doty's going to do. So like I said, I just think, like you're saying, I mean, I hate to be that person because I was just arguing against this last week of saying, oh, the season's a lost cause, the season's a wash, whatever. But at this point, like you're saying, what are you really playing for? Why not roll the dice? Like you kind of have to.
Right. You got to give yourself the best chance to win. And I mean, obviously they think that's Colin, but at the same time, it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not, I mean, you've got.
And I think it would also be different if Luke Doty was the backup. And you could argue against, well, he is a true freshman. He's never played. It's a huge risk. I mean, Ryan Hilinski started every game last year. So you
Right.
know behind Colin, you have a guy that, again, we've talked about Ryan Hilinski. He's not a perfect quarterback. He's not a perfect player by any stretch, but he has played good football in meaningful games. I mean, it's not like he's a fully unknown. He's never touched the field. I mean, this is a guy that more than held his own last year as a true freshman.
Correct. And so I honestly have no idea why, even when because Ryan didn't come in until after the field goal.
He's the one that actually led the field goal drive. So his final stats, which this is how bad the game was, Alex. I handed out game balls for offense and defense just because I was like, I do it every game. Ryan Hilinski got my game ball for offense, and he went 4 for 6 for 34 yards. So I bet I was like, hey, there's who else?
It's a bright spot.
That's it.
But no, I think, I think you just got to get somebody else in there because you need a spark at this point because it's just, I mean, how many points we scored against LSU? 11?
24, but 7 of it 24. Was really, really late. So, I mean,
Yeah, so it's just, you need to do something different, which, to us starts at the top. So that's, I'm sure we'll take up a good bit of the discussion.